Hey, welcome back. This video is for you if you know a little bit about React.js, you understand maybe what it is, what it's used for, but you're not sure how to integrate it with WordPress. Because there's a lot of great tutorials out there about how to use React on the editor screen, right, for creating a Gutenberg block type, but there doesn't really seem to be an official WordPress way of using React on the front end. Once again, my cat is destroying my blinds. So in this video, I'm going to show you the official WordPress package from NPM and how with basically zero configuration, we can get it up and running and we can use React both for the editor screen and our public front-facing website. And we're gonna set this up for both a theme and a plugin. Now that my blinds are thoroughly destroyed, let's jump into the action for this video. Okay, now before we worry about WordPress, I just want to show you in an empty folder that is not in any way connected to a WordPress installation. I want to show you how this package works. I want you to see how simple it is, how it requires basically zero configuration, and then after this, I'll show you how we could connect it to WordPress. Okay, so I'm in a new, totally empty folder, and I would just run npm init-y. If you don't already have Node.js installed on your computer, you'll need to do that. Okay, but now that my folder has a package.json file, I just want to install the official WordPress package. So npm install, and its name is @WordPress/scripts. Go ahead and press enter, and now be patient. This package has a lot of dependencies, so it will take maybe a good minute or two, even on a fast internet connection. But once it does complete, then in our project folder, we would just want to create a brand new folder named src for source. And by default, the WordPress package knows to look in this src folder for a file named index.js. We don't need to write any configuration that points towards this file. It just knows to look here. So now in this file, we could try to import React from the package name. Now here's something that's cool. We don't even need to run npm install React. WordPress will load React on its side, and this package is smart enough to treat React as an external in Webpack, meaning it will look in the browser's global scope for React. So our bundled file size will not be bloated. It'll just perfectly integrate with WordPress. But you and I still get to write this standard import code that we're used to writing. So we would also maybe import React DOM from React DOM. Again, this is just a quick test to show you how simple this package is. You don't need to be following along with this example if you don't want to. We'll get to actual WordPress integration in just a minute. But imagine I have a React component and I don't want it in this main JavaScript file, so I could just create a new file in my src folder. I'll name it testcomponent.js. I'll just paste this in because it's just boilerplate, but you can see I'm just importing React. I have a super simple component with just a div, h1, a paragraph, and then I'm exporting it. So I could save that. Within the main file, I could say import test component from, give it a file path, /test component. And then it's as simple as rendering it to the page. So React DOM, call its render method. Just render out test component. You have to select an element on the page. So document query selector. We don't even have an HTML page, but you get the idea. And this isn't just limited to React. You can do anything that you would normally do with JavaScript. You can split your code up into separate files. This is going to bundle everything up for us. The other thing that I want to show you in this example folder here is Sassy CSS or SCSS. So in my src folder, or really anywhere in the project folder, I can create a new file. I'll name it main.scss for Sassy CSS. And you can have a selector, and then you can have nested selectors. This is not a video about Sass, but I'm just showing you that it will work. So this is not valid normal CSS, but it is valid Sassy CSS. Back in our main JavaScript file, you would just import that file in. So import, give it a file path, /main.scss, give that a save. Okay, now we're ready to have the package sort of bundle all of this up and export it. We just need to do one thing. We open up our package.json file, In the scripts area, we're going to add 2 scripts. So one will be called build, and that would just be wp-scripts build, add a comma, add one more task. Let's call it start. Quotes, it would be wp-scripts start. Be sure to end that line with a comma, give it a save. Now, start will watch you, and this is the one that 99% of the time that I use. You run it once, and then it will just keep running and watching you in the background, and it will bundle up your files every time you save a change. Build is just a one-time build. So it's good to have, but I don't use it very often. Anyways, down in the command line, to actually leverage the start task, it's just npm run start. Cool, so you can see that created a build folder, and in the build folder, it automatically split out our CSS. So you can see it figured that nested code should be bundled up into regular CSS that looks like this. It created a JavaScript file with our React code. Now here's something that's cool. I want to show you the file size on this index.js file. So here it is in the build folder, index.js. So it's only 8 kilobytes, even though we included React and React DOM. So this is pretty cool. The WordPress package, again, its Webpack configuration knows to look in the browser global scope because WordPress will already be loading React and React DOM for us. So our bundle is nice and small. Our sassy CSS is good to go. Cool. Now there's obviously more to this official WordPress package than what I've shown you here, but I feel like these are all of the most important features. So right now, let's really change gears. And now I want to show you how you could use this with WordPress, right? When you're creating a theme or a plugin. So let me press Control-C in the command line to tell it to stop watching me. The point is, though, is it was watching. So anytime you save a change, it's going to rebundle everything up, a new version into your build folder. Anyways, the question now is, well, how would you integrate this into WordPress? And from this point forward, it's just a lot of boring, loading certain files from certain directories. So in order to save you maybe some time and frustration, I've created this GitHub repo called Brad's Boilerplate WordPress. And all that it does is it uses that exact same official WordPress scripts package that we just looked at, but it already has the boilerplate skeleton or file and folder structure for a theme and for a plugin. So you'll find a link to this repo in the description for the video. You can go ahead and clone it or just click this and download the zip. But basically, there's one folder for a theme and one folder for a Gutenberg block type plugin. So really quick, I want to show you how you could use both of these to get up and running with basically zero configuration. Okay, so on my desktop, I just downloaded the zip from the GitHub repo, so Brad's Boilerplate main. Inside it, let's start with the theme. So we'll do the theme first, and then later we'll do the plugin. So in this tab, I have a brand new, totally empty, fresh WordPress installation, and I want to walk through how I could set up my theme folder on this site. So I'm using local WP for my local WordPress dev installation. So to open up the files or folders for that site, I would just right-click on local and choose Reveal in Finder. So that just gives me the location on my hard drive where all of the files live. So I would go into App, Public, WP Content. Obviously, we're interested in themes right now. So these are the default themes that WordPress ships with. I would just want to move over from the repo files that we downloaded, my Brad's Boilerplate theme, just drop that into the themes folder. Okay, then back in your WordPress site, we'll go into Appearance, and just activate my Brad's Boilerplate theme. So activate that. Now if we go visit the front end and refresh, cool. So this is header.php, footer.php. It's pulling in a blog post. And most importantly though, we see hello from React. You have clicked this, and then each time you click, you can see the counter here goes up. Really quick, let's look at the folder for this theme. So I'll just open that up in VS Code. With VS Code pointing towards the theme folder, the first thing we want to do is npm install. So npm install, it'll automatically look at the package.json file for us and install all of our dependencies. Again, even on a fast connection, this will take maybe a minute or two. Okay, once that completes, then we'll use npm run start. So it'll be up and running and watching us. And let's give ourselves an example task. So imagine we want to change this text that's living in React. Maybe instead of a period at the end, we want exclamation marks. So you would just go into your src folder. You can go into your main index.js, and for example, I can see that it's loading this component from a file named example React component in the scripts folder. So just dig into the scripts folder, go into that component. You have clicked on this component. Maybe we just change this to an exclamation mark, give it a save. The start task is up and running and watching us, so we don't need to do anything. If we just go back and refresh, perfect, there it is. How about a CSS change? Imagine we want to change this color, so instead of blue, maybe we want purple. So in the src folder, I have a subfolder named styles, and there's no right or wrong way to organize your sassy CSS, but you can see I have a main file that sort of pulls in other files. And if you go into variables.scss, this is where I've defined, the primary and secondary colors. So if you just change this blue color in this one location to maybe purple and give it a save, if you go back to the browser and refresh, cool, that changed it here and this link text. As far as this theme goes, that's really all I wanted to show you. So it's just loading the CSS and JavaScript, and it's just a basic WordPress skeleton theme. There's nothing else special going on. However, I do want to show you one last task. So if you go into the package.json file, you'll notice that in addition to start, I've also set up something called preview. This preview task, yes, it's going to call our start task. It's also going to call something called sync. So I've set up browser sync so that we don't need to manually refresh the browser. It will refresh the browser for you whenever you save a change. In order to use this functionality, we do need to customize the local dev domain that you're proxying. So in package.json on line number 8, you can see the example domain is myexample.local. So you'll want to change this to whatever your local dev domain is. So for example, in my address bar, you can see it's for-youtube.local. So you'd want to change this value on line number 8, for youtube.local, whatever your local dev domain is, give that a save, and now let's run that task. And again, you don't call sync directly, you call the preview task because it's going to call both start and sync in parallel, so they'll both run. So in the command line, npm run preview. Okay, off camera, that just opened up Safari for me, but I want to view it in Google Chrome. So in your address bar, just visit localhost:3000. So this is a preview proxy server of your WordPress site. Now check this out. Imagine I want to change the primary color to green. So in VS Code, I'll even drag this down so you can see it in real time. So I change the purple to maybe this shade of green, give it a save. We don't need to do anything else, and we see that change reflected. Cool. Let's change gears, and I want to show you how to get the example plugin up and running. So in VS Code, in the command line, I'm going to be sure to press Control-C to stop that current task from running. Okay, and then in your WordPress installation, you just want to navigate, so app, public, WP content. Instead of themes, now we're interested in plugins. In the plugins folder, let's just drag and drop the code from that GitHub repo. So we have this other folder called Brad's Boilerplate Block Plugin. Just drag that folder into your WordPress plugins folder. Now we need to go activate the plugin. So in WordPress, where you're logged in as the admin, let's click on to plugins. Here we see it, Brad's Boilerplate Block Plugin. Just click activate. Okay, and before we even get it up and running in our text editor, let's first just see what it does in WordPress. So imagine you go into a blog post and you want to insert a new custom block type. So maybe below this paragraph, if I try to insert a block type, if I scroll down a little bit, there should be a block type called Brad's Boilerplate Block. And if you click on that, cool, we have this new area. There's two input fields. So the first one says sky color. I'll say light blue. And then for grass color, I'll click on that and type green. Okay, and then if we go ahead and click update to actually save that, and then we view the post on the front end of our website, Cool, so here's the post, but here is that custom block type we inserted. So it says toggle view sky color. If you click on that, only then does it reveal that value. Same thing with grass color. And you can click again to hide them. So the point here, obviously that in and of itself isn't impressive, but the point is that we're using React.js, right, to handle this interactivity of actually clicking on it. And we're using values or data that you entered for that block type in the editor. So while this specific example might not be that impressive, you can take those building blocks of taking dynamic data and using it in client-side JavaScript. You can take that and run with it and build anything you can think of. Having said that, this video is sponsored by my 35-hour premium WordPress course. In that course, we learn how to build 2 different block types. So here's an example of the first one. It's a quiz or multiple choice block type. What species is meows a lot? If you get it wrong on purpose, you see this animation. If you get it correct, cool. The other block type we build is called featured professor. Here's an example of it on the front end. Let me show you how it works on the back end or in the edit screen. So if I click edit post for this particular blog post, well, here we see that multiple choice quiz block type. So I could add a 4th answer, maybe bird. And it's hard to see the color difference with this background color. I could actually change the background color for this instance of the block, maybe to something like that. But this is where you choose which answer is the correct answer from the admin side of things. So I can update that, and then if I view it on the front end, we should see that new background color. Yep. But I did want to show you how the featured professor block type works. So this has to deal with relationships between posts. So on this website that we build in the course together, there's a custom post type called professors. And now within a blog post, well, let me actually just delete this instance of featured professor and insert a new one so you can see it from scratch. So if I add a new block of the, let's see, featured professor, or it's called professor callout, it says select a professor. So it looks through all of the posts of that professor post type and it lets me choose. So if I choose Froggerson, it pulls in the content for that post through the REST API and it does it on the fly. So now if I save this, none of this content is actually being saved into this blog post. We're just saving a little piece of metadata that points towards the post ID for this Dr. Froggerson post. So if we go view this on the front end and refresh, instead of barks a lot, it's Froggerson, and there's a link to that post. So you can click on learn more about Dr. Froggerson. It takes you to that permalink. And then we can show the relationship going from the other direction. So down towards the bottom of Froggerson's page, it says, Froggerson is mentioned in the following posts. And then it lists any blog posts that feature him. Cool. So if you're interested in building more complex block types using React and the official WordPress package we've seen in this video, you might be interested in my 35-hour premium WordPress development course. You can find a link to get it at a heavily discounted price in the description of this video. Anyways, before we bring this video to a close, let's take a look at the folder and file structure for this example plugin. So in our plugins folder, I'll just open this up in VS Code. Just like with our theme, once VS Code is pointing towards your folder, we want to run npm install to get things started. That will install all of our dependencies. Once that finishes, then we just run npm run start. Okay, let's give ourselves an example task now that that's up and running. So maybe we want to change the text for one of these toggle buttons. So let's look at the folder structure. In our src folder, we have 2 JavaScript files and 2 Sassy CSS files. One for the front end that the public will see, and then one for what you'll see on the admin edit screen. You don't need to use totally separate code bases. You could just use the exact same CSS and JavaScript, but I wanted you to have this option. Anyways, if we go into frontend.js, so down here we see a bit of JSX. Maybe we just add an exclamation mark at the end of toggle the color, add it here as well. Give that a save, go back on the browser and refresh, and there you see the exclamation marks. Maybe you want to change the background color for this. You would just go into frontend.scss and change that right here. So maybe if I want it to be a green, give that a save, refresh, cool. And then obviously the same thing applies for the admin side of things. So for example, here we see what it looks like on the back end. To change this, you would edit index.js and then index.scss. If you're curious how this index.js file works and how you would do perhaps more complex or interesting things on the admin side here, well, that's outside the scope of this video, but again, you might be interested in my premium course. At the very least, I hope this video gives you something fun to experiment with. Even if you're not exactly sure how things work, you can go in and make changes, edit certain values, see which bits of code affect which features, and really just experiment and have fun. Anyways, that's going to bring this video to a close. I hope you feel like you learned something. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more web development tutorials.